Showers of blessings today and always. The 3 Questions by Leo Tolstoy. A lovely story, a very profound revelation for us to really ponder upon. And of course, always a beautiful message to take home. There was this king who got very curious to know the answer for 3 questions. The first question was, what is the most important or the best time to do anything? Second one, who's the most important person? Number 3, what is the best occupation or the best deed that one can ever do in his life? Of course, various answers came in from different people, but none satiated the king. So he started sending word to all different kingdoms, wanting to meet wise men to know his answers. So one day he hears of this yogi, a hermit, who lived quite far away from his kingdom, who may have the answers for his questions. But there was one trick here. They said the hermit will not meet kings or people from the royal lineage. He would only cater to the needy and the poor. So the king was determined to go meet him. So he disguised himself as a poor layman, and then he starts traveling to meet the hermit. Of course, his bodyguards are with him. Once he nears the hermit's place, he tells his bodyguards to just stay away, and he walks towards the hermit's home. And when he goes there, he sees the hermit busy digging something in the garden. So he tells the hermit, I have come here to get an answer for 3 questions. What in life is the most important or the best time? And who do we consider as the most important person? And what, according to you, is the best occupation or the best action that one can do? The hermit continued to dig the ground and never answered the king. The king spoke louder, but then the hermit continued ignoring the king's questions. The king observed keenly and noticed that the hermit was getting tired of digging the ground. So the king offered to help the hermit dig the ground. The hermit gave the spade to the king, and he sat down to rest, watching the king dig the ground. Again the king repeated his questions, but still no answer from the hermit, and the king continued digging. After some time, he paused and he asked the hermit, is this enough for today? So the hermit got up and took the spade from the king and started digging himself. The king took back the spade and said, no, you rest. I will do it. So this went on till nearly sunset. The king was obviously very tired. And he did ask the 3 questions in between, but the hermit never answered. Finally, when the sun set, the hermit got up to leave, telling the king to follow him, and the work for today is done. Just as they were about to leave, a man, heavily wounded, bleeding from his stomach, comes rushing to them and faints at the feet of the king and the hermit. Immediately, the king picks up that man and starts to treat him to stop his bleeding, which after much difficulty, the king was able to stop the bleeding. And then he treats the wound, and he carries the wounded man inside the hermit's home, lays him on the bed. And by then the king is far too tired. So he lies down on the floor there and he drops off to sleep. When he wakes up in the morning, he sees the wounded man up already, looking at the king with tears in his eyes. The king questioningly looked at him and said, "Why? What's the matter? Are you all right?" So the wounded man said, "Of course I'm okay. But then I am filled with guilt. I need to confess." So the king said, "Yes, go on." So the wounded man said, "O king." The king was taken back because he was surprised how he knew that he was a king. The wounded man said, "Yes, I know you are the king in disguise. I was sent by your enemies to murder you. And I waited outside the hermit's home, waiting for you to come out. But you never came out. After I got tired of waiting there, when I came out of my hiding, your bodyguards who were there recognized me and they wounded me, trying to kill me. And then I ran and came here for help. And you were kind enough to treat me. And now I feel very bad and guilty for having attempted or tried to kill you." And the wounded man will swear and promise to the king that he and his generations will definitely remain a slave to him in service of the king. The king forgives him and accepts his service. And then he prepares to leave. And just before leaving, he'll ask the hermit once more, "You haven't answered my questions. Please answer my 3 questions." The hermit said, "Your questions are already answered." So the king looks at him and said, "Really?" So the hermit said, "Yes. The minute you saw me digging the ground, you decided to stay and help me dig the ground. That was the most important time and the very good decision that you had taken, and the best time to have taken that decision. Because if you had gone back for having not received a reply from me, you would have been killed by that man who was sent by your enemy. The important person is me. Because at that time, your thought was only on me in wanting to help me and wanting to receive answers from me. So the most important person at that time was me, said the hermit. And the third, the best thing that you could have done is having given your time in helping me. Nothing else could have been a better deed. And when the wounded man came running, when you stopped to treat him and heal him, that was the best time that you had chosen to treat that wounded man. And the most important person at that time was the wounded man, because your full thought and your action was focused on treating him. And the best action, obviously, you healed him and made him well. Since you did all this, you were able to find out who your enemies were, and you had accumulated a family, a generation of people who would stay dedicated to you in serving him. So the old man told the king, you can never generalize forever and say, this is the best time, this is the best action, this is the most important person, because every minute is new. So the best time is now. And the best person is the one whom you are with now. And the best occupation or the best deed is the help you are extending to that person who is with you right now. Because we human beings have been sent to this earth with the purpose of serving all the other beings on this earth. So learn to enjoy, nurture, nourish the amazing now. Don't worry about your past. Don't worry about your future. Learn to live gorgeously in the present. I loved reading this story of Leo Tolstoy, and I'm sure you would have gained the message and the importance of living in the present, because that's the beautiful present I give to you today. You know why? Because you are amazing.